Hope in the midst of change has a considerable psychological impact on the human mind. To the fearful, it is a threat because it means things could get worse. To the hopeful, it is encouraging because things could get better. To the confident, it is inspiring because there exists the challenge to make things better. King Whitney Jr. Next Thursday, we have the superior conjunction of Mercury and the Sun. In Mercury's cycle, there are two conjunctions between the Sun and Mercury. The inferior conjunction, similar to the new moon phase, occurs when Mercury is retrograde. The superior conjunction, similar to Mercury's full moon phase, occurs when Mercury is direct. It is at this conjunction that we are offered the opportunity to observe the circumstances of our lives more objectively. To step back, observe. Take note. This superior conjunction, which sits between a semi-square to Neptune and a semi-square to Saturn, gives the feeling of a mild siege. Last week, with Pluto retrograde, it was squaring Mercury, which might have evoked a sense of the end of the world. But rather than waiting for an apocalypse to save us from the end of everything, this is actually a deep awareness that, as a collective, we are in a state of transition. Change can be frightening, but change can also be an opportunity. Without change, we could not grow, we could not evolve and make things better. Between the despair and uncertainty of the semi-square to Neptune and the harsh reality of the semi-square to Saturn lies hope in the form of a sextile between the Sun and Mercury and exalted Jupiter in Cancer. The hope of a possibility. The hope of a tomorrow. The belief that there will always be better days ahead. Hope in the face of difficulty. Hope in the face of uncertainty. The audacity of hope. In the end, that is God's greatest gift to us. The faith in things not seen. The belief that there will be better days ahead. Barack Obama, we are in a rare period. All the major outer planets have recently changed signs. Entering uncharted territory, we suddenly find ourselves trying to regain our balance. But the fact that these outer planets are moving together is bringing a unique mutual support. Neptune in Aries will form a sextile with Pluto in Aquarius until 2036, when they will start to move slightly apart by degree. Its impact on the collective may be felt as a correction that places greater emphasis on local, community-driven initiatives. Initiatives that can literally change the world from the ground up. It is literally a new way of seeing ourselves and our relationship with each other. One thing that may become more evident is how we all swim together in this great ocean of life, and that together we can make a difference. Uranus, now in Gemini, is trine Pluto and sextile Neptune for the next several years. Inventive. Brilliant. Uranus dares to show us that we don't have to keep doing things the way we always have in the past. That there are better, more innovative ways of doing things that could literally transform the society we live in. Again, this concept is further reinforced by the awareness of our interconnectedness on a social, economic, and global level. This interconnectedness will intensify as we approach July, when all three planets, joined by Jupiter in Leo, will be at 4 degrees of their respective signs. The aspect will become exact again in 2027, at 6 degrees of the signs. And we will be part of this journey. These are transits of change, of innovation, of possibility, of hope. The opposition of Jupiter to Pluto will be the catalyst, as power shifts are becoming intolerable. This is a collective change, but we will all participate in this inexorable transformation, as humanity as a whole dares to take the step toward the next level of our evolutionary path. Hakann, what is your self-esteem based on? Dearest brothers and sisters, this is Hakann speaking. I greet you in peace and love. Suppose a person's self-esteem is based on a single leg. That is, their self-esteem is solely supported by being a political activist, or only by being a great athlete, or an excellent parent, or a spiritually evolved individual, and so on. In that case, if they lose that leg from under them, their self-esteem painfully collapses. For example, if a person's self-esteem is based on being a political activist and fighting evil, the other political party, then they may become unreasonable in political debates, demonizing the opposing side and refusing to acknowledge their own side's flaws. This can contribute to a country's political polarization or culture war. A great athlete may become obsessed with their sport to strengthen that single leg their self-esteem rests on, thus becoming truly exceptional at that sport. However, if that great athlete becomes seriously ill, their self-esteem might collapse unless they can find a new leg to stand on. If a person's self-esteem is based solely on the statement, "I am an excellent parent," then they might be completely reluctant to listen to legitimate criticism/complaints their child might have regarding mistakes made in parenting. If a spiritual person adheres to a harmful concept or ideology, and it's pointed out to them, they may not want to accept it. Instead, They might resort to performative spirituality or deny reality in order to strengthen their position, gain more confirmation of their self-worth. Now, suppose someone has at least 2 legs to stand on. Suddenly, they can admit to having made serious mistakes, either their own or their sides, because even if one of their legs is temporarily removed, their self-esteem doesn't crash to the ground. They simply lean on the other leg for a while. Yes, ideally, a person's self-esteem can literally levitate. It remains high regardless of what happens, how they are treated, or the disappointments they face. Only very few people manage to have their self-esteem soar, and for these people, it's absolutely fantastic. However, this is very rare, and most people cannot simply choose to make their self-esteem levitate. Channel's note: my self-esteem is not yet able to levitate. Much more common is the person who believes their self-esteem can levitate, but in reality it doesn't, and they flatly refuse to acknowledge or even see the flaws in the foundation they rest on, because they depend on it. This is the person who denies the obvious reality that most people see, or the person who is seduced by hyperbolic, appealing ideas that collapse under critical scrutiny. So, unless you are one of the few whose self-esteem can levitate, try to have at least 2 foundations on which your self-esteem can rest. In the context of this spiritual community, this means it's fine to focus mainly on spirituality if you wish, but I wouldn't make it the only foundation on which your self-esteem rests. In other words, develop some non-spiritual skill, make your contribution in some non-spiritual way, etc. Yes, this spiritual message suggests becoming good at something non-spiritual or making your contribution in a non-spiritual way as well. Balance is underrated. Also, you can do non-spiritual things in a spiritual way, and there are many lessons to be learned in the outside, normal world. Consuming something non-spiritual is fine, but it's not enough. If your spirituality is based on just one leg, a nice vacation is great, but you might still feel threatened in your self-esteem if someone later disagrees with a spiritual opinion of yours. Also, if your 2 legs are I am spiritually advanced and I have a business in the spiritual field, you actually still have only 1 leg, spirituality. Or, if you prefer, you can think of these 2 legs as tied together. This still leaves you unsteady and vulnerable to spiritual ego, blindness to any mistaken beliefs, performative spirituality, etc. This also means that even if someone else is clearly and unequivocally wrong, you won't be able to point it out to them if that is the only foundation on which their self-esteem rests. They are arguing for their survival. You can't convince them to give up their survival instinct. Have compassion for that. And if someone tries to make you stand on 1 leg, that's a red flag. This is how cults, or manipulative partners, work. Cut off contact with your friends. They're just holding you back. Quit your job and come work for us/me. And then the cult, the manipulative partner, becomes your only leg, and it becomes really difficult to even see the flaws in that leg, let alone leave it. Finally, the legs need to be at least somewhat strong in order to support you. If you dabble in 20 different activities without ever seriously committing to anything or excelling at something, you'll end up with 20 weak, wobbly legs. That's not a solid foundation either. Most people will benefit from having 2 or 3 solid legs, with or without a clear specialization in 1 leg. Young adults or people in survival situations may need to focus intensely on 1 leg for a period of time. Yes, there are stories of people who focused 100% on spirituality and attained enlightenment, but for every such person, there are 500 where the spiritual seeker, focused exclusively on this, got lost and couldn't realize it. After all, if a person is standing on 1 leg, it's really hard for them to see the flaws in that leg. It's perfectly fine to focus mainly on spirituality if you wish. I'm just suggesting a little balance. I hope this was helpful. With all my love, your star sibling, Hakann. Working from calm when I was in my 20s, I really tried to be as productive as possible, and that usually meant rushing things, putting pressure on myself to do more, and acting with a sense of urgency. I think this is how most of us are raised, culturally. Productivity equals urgency, pressure, haste, the need to get good results. But as many of us have discovered, urgency is not an ideal environment for creating, for doing things with purpose and a long-term vision. It's not good for our mental and physical health either, if we constantly find ourselves in that state of mind. What if our best work doesn't come from urgency, but from achieving a deeper calm? Calm work, in practice calm, is not a passive, detached, and lazy way of being, despite cultural messages to the contrary, but rather a sense of presence. It's actually a high-performance state. Our nervous system is relaxed and regulated, our attention is clear, and we can act without being reactive. Calm doesn't mean the complete absence of urgency. Sometimes we need to work urgently, but we can still do so while maintaining a grounded calm. Here's what that might look like in practice. You start work with intention, without rushing to only deal with urgent matters. You sit down to tackle a difficult task and breathe deeply. Instead of rushing towards something easier, you approach something that might be intimidating with curiosity, exploring rather than merely reacting to fear. Mistakes and setbacks are handled with grace, instead of being thrown off balance. You learn something. It's not a judgment on who you are. You move through the day with a more relaxed mindset, so you don't feel so exhausted at the end of the day. What do you think? I know it's easier said than done. How to cultivate calm at work, of course. It takes practice. Start each day with a pause at the threshold of your work. Don't dive right in. Give yourself a moment of quiet and awareness. Choose meaningful work to focus on. Create a small, calming ritual you can turn to during the day. A few deep breaths, a short walk, a cup of tea you prepare and savor calmly. Pay attention to when you start slipping into urgency and reactivity, and give yourself some leeway if you don't do everything perfectly. Return to your calming ritual, and then end the day with a moment of calm and reflection. Keep a journal and acknowledge where you lost your way and where you consciously brought calm into your life. This is not just a strategy to increase productivity. It's not about optimizing our lives. It's about creating a different relationship with ourselves and with the work we find meaningful. It's about trusting ourselves and allowing ourselves access to that inner calm we so deeply desire. With love. Message from the angels. Nothing expresses boundaries better than a cactus, dearest friends. We love you so much. You are lovers, dear friends. You love encouraging people because seeing someone else shine their own light thanks to your light fills the soul. You love helping when your contribution can truly be of help because it keeps the flow of love alive. You love sharing with those who will appreciate your gifts because it makes you feel rich. But problems, burnout, exhaustion, or resentment arise when giving is not driven by natural impulses. Too often, you give out of a sense of duty or fear of what might happen if you don't. You might think someone has no one else, or you might simply fear you're not a good person if you don't help. There are many misunderstandings on this topic, but the simplest thing to remember is giving, sharing, or serving with love or joy comes from inner light. Giving, sharing, or serving without love or joy comes from the ego. And it's never wrong, of course, to help others. But giving guided by divine will elevates both giver and receiver, while giving out of ego can easily drain one person's energy and make the other feel inferior. There are no fixed, unchanging rules about when it's right to give. You have an inner compass to guide you. Your feelings tell you, even before you do anything, which exchanges will be mutually uplifting and which won't, which will satisfy your deepest desires and which will distract you from them. Pay attention to your emotions. If you're a parent, you might not feel like driving your kids to school at that moment, but deep down you feel love for them and the desire to see them grow and thrive. If you can focus on that love, suddenly the car ride feels like a privilege rather than an obligation. If, however, a perfectly capable adult asks you to drive them regularly, you might not feel the same way. Suppose a family member you love calls asking if you have time to help them with a project over the weekend. If you have the time and feel inspired, you'll both be happy. If not, politely decline or agree on another time. None of you like disappointing others, but we are amazed at how easily you disappoint yourselves trying to please someone else. Dear friends, you should never feel guilty for being honest. You should never feel responsible for another person's well-being, unless it's your child or someone in your care. And even in those cases, they are responsible for their own mood. Your kindness and compassionate honesty are love. Inauthentic service is not. You can perform the same action with completely different energy and achieve completely different results. You can feed people with resentment, and they will feel inferior. You can feed them with love, and they will feel elevated. You can help an adult child by giving them money to support their goals, believing in them, taking care of yourself, and focusing on love. In this case, your energy says, I love you. I believe in you. I know you can make it, and I will not sacrifice myself for you. I will share my abundance of love with you. It's up to them what they do with your gift. You are in a vibration of love, in which you have the best chance of uplifting them. Or you can give out of duty and feel resentful. Perhaps you don't believe they can handle the consequences of their choices. Or, more honestly, perhaps you don't believe you can handle the consequences of their choices. It's the same action, sharing money, but in this case, you're sending an energetic signal that says, I don't trust you. You might ruin your life and never recover. I wouldn't be able to bear it if that happened. I will rescue you to avoid the consequences I fear. Dear friends, this is certainly not the signal you would want to send to someone, yet it's often what is actually transmitted. Again, what they do with your gift and your energy is up to them. But in this case, your vibration is a mixture of love and fear. This benefits neither of you in the deepest sense. Perhaps you can find a compromise that works for both of you. It would be worth examining your feelings to find a solution that feels more authentic to you. If we could, we would free you from the undeserved guilt that plagues many of you when you put your heart first. You should never feel guilty for being honest. You should never feel guilty for spending your money on things you desire or your time on projects you're passionate about. If you had a friend who was starving, of course you would feed them. Everyone deserves food, water, and shelter. But most of the time, when you set aside your own self-interest, you are not doing so to help another survive. So be kind to yourselves. Take care of your heart and your inner light. If you let yourselves be guided by your heart, you will naturally feel invigorated. You will spontaneously feel the desire to give where it is helpful. And you will live in a flow where giving, sharing, and serving authentically uplifts you rather than drains you. Certainly, help others when your heart is full of love and you feel joy. But when that's not the case, be honest, dearest ones, and do so without guilt. Because if every soul lovingly took care of their own light, your world would be a much happier place. God bless you. We love you so much. The Angels. Ashtar. Co-creation. Hello everyone, dearest ones. We are present. We are Ashtar and many members of the Galactic Federation. We are always excited to share and to guide you in conveying messages of hope and to invite you all to focus on what, from our perspective, needs greater attention and awareness. First of all, we want you all to know that we are always present. We are always vigilant. We are always ready to lend and project our energy. We are here to support humanity. But above all, we are here to support and encourage the many lightworkers whom we see becoming more active and stepping forward at this time. And many lightworkers, we should note, are also feeling the impact and effects of collective energies. It will not surprise you, dear friends, that the energy on your planet right now may feel increasingly chaotic. There is truth to that. But remember that what humanity experiences collectively also contributes to co-creating even more chaos. We are here to remind you that the chaos that may be catapulted, triggered, or initiated by a few individuals on your planet does not necessarily have to determine or dictate the experience of the entire collective. We invite you to remember that, collectively, you possess much more light and much more power. Therefore, this is a reminder. What you collectively focus on will always produce better results and will have a far greater influence on what you create together. We understand that for many of you, the chaos is difficult to ignore, and it is not our advice or our instruction to pretend otherwise, because often chaos requires greater attention. Whether that attention is focused on the importance of re-establishing harmony, peace, and unity within the human collective, it is equally important that all of you, particularly those who are lightworkers, remember that this chaos sometimes serves as a reminder or a signal regarding the energy that the world and the collective need from you right now. We have shared with many of you in the past that there are different levels of lightworkers, all equally important and valuable, but they're here to play different roles. Many of you are healers. Many of you are harmonizers. Many of you are here to activate. Other lightworkers, healers, and star seeds around you. We would like, however, to take a moment to speak about those who are changemakers. Changemakers are sometimes confused with activators, because those who activate, through the energies they transmit to those around them, activate and reorient individuals, helping them connect with their true essence and rediscover their life purpose, so that they can fulfill their role. This, in itself, reflects a level of change, of activation. But among you, there are some who, as lightworkers, are meant to be the voice of the collective. That is, while many of you may choose not to focus excessively on the chaos, some of you, as lightworkers, may find it more difficult and challenging to turn a blind eye to it, because it is precisely these chaotic energies that invite you to step forward and assume your respective roles. You who are changemakers are often here to give voice to the voiceless. You are here to create paths and avenues through which different segments of the collective, those who may have experienced voicelessness, various forms of injustice, and so on, can make themselves heard, understand their needs, and share their wisdom with the wider collective. Those who foster change are also here to bring about and trigger positive change. It is about correcting the course when chaos tends to steer and lead the collective. So, for those who recognize themselves in this message and identify as changemakers, it is about learning to ask questions, listen to your heart, and ask yourself, how can I respond to the needs of the collective? How can I be of service? And remember that what resonates in each of your hearts from a place of passion, joy, and enthusiasm, that is your signal. That is your guidance. That is the action or the path you need to focus on. As a changemaker, it is important not to feel overly responsible for how those around you react or respond to your voice and your initiatives. You are not responsible for their choices or their path, but you are certainly responsible for the light you shine. Remember that your light right now is particularly active, exerting, let's say, a very strong influence with the ability not only to transmute any anomalies in the energy fields of those around you, but through this transmutation, you actually help elevate them and raise their vibration in a way that guides them on their path toward their highest good. And from the energetic imprint you have on those around you, remember that this imprint constantly propagates and spreads throughout the collective. You are all connected through your heart chakras. And right now, we see that many within the collective, especially lightworkers, are working hard to re-energize and strengthen this wonderful cosmic network that interconnects you all. Each of you plays an important role. You are here to remind everyone else of their power and to teach them how to stay centered, how to reorient themselves toward a path of unity, harmony, love, and compassion. Because that is the ultimate goal of humanity. That represents, and truly does represent, an elevation and an ascension of consciousness. We thank all of you, lightworkers. Whether you are aware of being lightworkers or not, remember that the light in your heart is enough, it is important, and it truly makes a difference. And so, from us to all of you, we share our gratitude and our love. Thank you.